The morning sun cast long shadows across the Afghan mountainside as Captain Marcus Rodriguez checked his weapon one final time. His team of 8 Navy SEALs had been tracking a high-value target through these treacherous peaks for 3 days. Intelligence suggested the terrorist leader was hiding in a compound just 2 clicks ahead, nestled between jagged rocks that had witnessed countless battles throughout history. Rodriguez had led dozens of missions like this one, but something felt different today. The air carried an unusual stillness, broken only by the distant cry of an eagle circling overhead. His men moved with practiced silence behind him, each one a brother forged in the crucible of elite military training. They trusted him completely, just as he trusted them with his life. The team consisted of his closest allies, Petty Officer Jenkins, a demolitions expert from Texas whose steady hands could disarm any explosive device, Sergeant Williams, their communications specialist who could establish contact with base from anywhere on Earth, Corporal Martinez, their medic whose quick thinking had saved countless lives in previous operations, and, for other operators whose skills had been honed through years of dangerous missions across hostile territories. As they crested the ridge overlooking their target, Rodriguez raised his fist, signaling for the team to halt. Through his binoculars, he studied the compound below. The intelligence reports had been accurate. 3 buildings formed a rough triangle around a central courtyard, with armed guards patrolling in predictable patterns. Smoke rose from a small chimney, indicating the presence of occupants inside the main structure. "Jenkins, what's your assessment of those walls?" Rodriguez whispered into his headset. "Looks like standard construction, Captain. Nothing we can't handle with the charges we brought. Give me 15 minutes, and I'll have us multiple entry points." Rodriguez nodded, his mind already working through the assault plan. They would split into 3 teams, approach from different angles, and execute a coordinated strike just before dawn when human alertness naturally reached its lowest point. It was a textbook operation, the kind they had performed successfully many times before. But, as they began their descent toward the target, none of them noticed the figure watching from a hidden position high above on the opposite ridge. Through the scope of a custom rifle, keen eyes tracked their movement with professional interest. The observer had been waiting in that position for over 36 hours, patient as stone, invisible as shadow. The storm clouds gathering on the horizon seemed to mirror the tension building in the valley below. Weather reports had predicted clear skies, but mountain weather followed its own rules. Dark masses of vapor rolled toward them like advancing armies, promising rain that would complicate their extraction plans. Rodriguez felt the first drops of moisture on his face as his team reached the final approach position. "Williams, update base on our status. Tell them we're proceeding as planned, but weather might delay extraction." "Copy that, Captain." Base acknowledges and confirms extraction team standing by. The SEALs moved with ghost-like precision across the rocky terrain. Each man knew his role perfectly, understanding that their lives depended on flawless execution and complete trust in their teammates. They had trained for scenarios like this countless times, but training could never fully replicate the weight of real consequences that hung in the mountain air. As they approached the compound's perimeter, Rodriguez noticed something that made him pause. The guard patterns had changed since their last observation. Instead of the relaxed patrol they had witnessed earlier, the sentries moved with increased alertness, their weapons held at ready positions rather than casually slung over their shoulders. "Something's wrong," he murmured to Jenkins, who had taken position beside him behind a boulder. "They're acting like they know we're coming." Jenkins studied the scene through his night vision device. "Could be coincidence, Captain. Maybe they're just being extra careful tonight." But Rodriguez's instincts, sharpened by years of combat experience, told him otherwise. He had learned to trust those instincts above all else. They had kept him and his men alive through operations in Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan. Something about this mission felt compromised, though he couldn't identify the specific threat. The rain began falling harder, creating a natural sound barrier that would mask their approach but also reduce visibility. Rodriguez made a quick decision to proceed, knowing that waiting might expose them to even greater danger. His team moved like water flowing around obstacles, each man covering his assigned sector while maintaining perfect coordination. They reached the compound's outer wall without incident. Jenkins quickly set his charges while the others provided security. The specialized explosives would create precisely controlled breaches, allowing rapid entry while minimizing structural damage that might harm potential hostages inside. "Charges set, Captain." "Ready on your signal." Rodriguez checked his watch. Perfect timing would give them maximum advantage. He counted down silently, his finger hovering over the detonation switch that would begin their assault. Years of training and brotherhood culminated in this moment of absolute trust and shared purpose. "Execute," he whispered. The explosions shattered the mountain's silence like thunder. 3 perfectly placed charges created entry points exactly where planned. Rodriguez led his team through the breach in the main building's wall, their movements swift and coordinated despite the swirling dust and debris. Inside, they encountered immediate resistance. Muzzle flashes lit the darkness as terrorist fighters responded to the assault. The SEALs' superior training and equipment gave them significant advantages, but their enemies fought with desperate determination on familiar ground. Rodriguez moved through the building's corridors with practiced efficiency, clearing rooms while coordinating his team's advance through their communication system. The structure's layout matched their intelligence briefings perfectly, but the number of defenders seemed higher than expected. "Williams, we need that backup communication established. Something feels wrong about this whole setup." "Working on it, Captain. Getting some interference, but I should have contact in 60 seconds. As they advanced deeper into the building, Rodriguez began to realize the full scope of their situation. This wasn't just a hideout for a single high-value target. The compound housed a much larger operation, with multiple rooms containing weapons, communication equipment, and tactical planning materials that suggested coordination with other terrorist cells across the region. The rain outside had intensified into a full storm, with wind howling through the mountains like voices of ancient warriors. Lightning illuminated the compound in stark, dramatic flashes that created an almost supernatural atmosphere around the unfolding battle. Rodriguez's team fought with exceptional skill, but they were outnumbered and facing enemies who knew every corner of the building. The mission parameters had changed dramatically, but retreat wasn't an option until they secured their primary objective and gathered the intelligence materials scattered throughout the compound. "Martinez, we've got wounded civilians in the East Wing. Can you get to them?" "On my way, Captain. Looks like they've been held here against their will." The discovery of hostages added another layer of complexity to their mission. Rodriguez realized they weren't just conducting a capture operation anymore. They were executing a rescue mission under increasingly dangerous conditions, with storm winds outside growing stronger by the minute. As they secured the main building, Rodriguez felt a moment of satisfaction. Despite the complications, his team had performed flawlessly. The primary target had been eliminated, valuable intelligence gathered, and innocent lives saved. It was exactly the kind of mission that reminded him why he had chosen this difficult path of service. But, as they prepared to move toward the extraction point, a single gunshot echoed through the storm from an impossible distance. Rodriguez felt the impact before he heard the sound, a precise shot that found its target despite wind, rain, and darkness that should have made such accuracy impossible. The bullet struck with surgical precision, and Captain Marcus Rodriguez fell to the mountain stone, his life bleeding out into the storm-soaked earth while his brothers rushed to his aid with desperate urgency. The words hit the remaining SEALs like physical blows. "The captain is down." Martinez's voice carried across their communication network with professional calm that barely contained his shock and grief. 8 elite warriors, men who had faced death countless times, suddenly found themselves confronting their worst nightmare. Their leader, their brother, their anchor in the storm, lay motionless on the cold mountain stone. Jenkins reached Rodriguez first, his hands moving with practiced medical training as he checked for vital signs. The rain continued its relentless assault, washing blood across the rocky ground in pink streams that disappeared into the darkness. "He's alive, but barely. Entry wound in the upper chest, exit wound clean." Whoever took the shot knew exactly what they were doing. The shot had come from an impossible distance, through weather conditions that should have made accurate long-range shooting nearly impossible. Williams quickly scanned the surrounding peaks with his night vision equipment, searching for any sign of the sniper who had struck with such devastating precision. The storm made thermal imaging useless, and the mountainous terrain offered countless hiding positions for a skilled marksman. "Martinez, how long do we have?" Sergeant Thompson asked, taking command as the senior non-commissioned officer present. His voice remained steady despite the emotional turmoil threatening to overwhelm them all. They had trained for this scenario, but no amount of preparation could fully prepare anyone for losing their captain in hostile territory. "He needs immediate evacuation or he won't make it another hour. The bleeding is under control for now, but he's going into shock. We need that extraction team here immediately, or we need to carry him to a better position for pickup."
Thompson's mind raced through their options.
The extraction point lay 2 kilometers away across treacherous terrain, with unknown numbers of enemies still in the area and a sniper of exceptional skill watching their every movement. Carrying a wounded man through that environment would make them all vulnerable targets, but staying in their current position offered no better alternatives.
Williams, what's the status on our communications with base? Still getting interference, Sergeant.
Something's jamming our long-range communications. I can maintain contact with the extraction team, but coordination with base command is spotty at best. The situation deteriorated with each passing minute. They were isolated in enemy territory with their leader critically wounded, facing an unknown sniper who possessed skills that bordered on supernatural. The storm provided some concealment, but it also made their own movements more difficult and reduced their tactical advantages. As they prepared to move Rodriguez toward the extraction point, Corporal Wilson spotted movement in the compound they had just cleared.
We've got more hostiles approaching from the south. Looks like reinforcements arrived while we were dealing with the captain.
Thompson made a quick tactical decision. Jenkins, Williams, you carry the captain. Martinez, Wilson, and I will provide covering fire.
We move fast and hard toward the extraction point. No one gets left behind.
They began their fighting withdrawal across the mountainous terrain, with Rodriguez's unconscious form carried between 2 of his men while the others provided security. The rain made every step treacherous, and the darkness concealed obstacles that could end their mission catastrophically. Behind them, muzzle flashes indicated that their enemies were mounting in organized pursuit. Contact rear. Wilson called out as enemy fighters began closing the distance. The SEALs returned fire while maintaining their movement toward safety, but their reduced numbers and the burden of carrying their wounded leader limited their tactical options significantly. The sniper struck again without warning. Wilson cried out as a bullet grazed his shoulder, spinning him around but not dropping him. The shot had come from a completely different direction than the first one, suggesting that their tormentor was mobile and repositioning between shots with remarkable speed and stealth. Whoever this shooter is, they're professional level, Jenkins panted as they sought cover behind a rocky outcropping.
These aren't lucky shots. This person knows what they're doing.
Thompson studied their surroundings through his night vision device, looking for any sign of their mysterious adversary. The mountains offered countless positions for a skilled sniper, and the storm made detection nearly impossible. They were being hunted by someone who possessed exceptional skills and intimate knowledge of the terrain. As they resumed their movement, Martinez noticed something that made him pause. Sergeant, those shots, they're not coming from the terrorist positions.
Someone else is out there, someone who's not with the people we just fought.
The realization added another layer of complexity to their desperate situation. Not only were they being pursued by the terrorist fighters from the compound, but they were also being stalked by an unknown sniper who seemed to be working independently. The precision of the shots suggested military-level training, but whose military remained a frightening mystery. They reached a narrow ravine that offered some protection from observation while providing a direct route toward their extraction point. Thompson made the decision to enter the confined space despite the tactical risks, knowing that speed was now more critical than perfect positioning. Rodriguez's condition continued to deteriorate with each passing minute. Williams, try to raise the extraction team again.
We need to know their exact position and estimated arrival time. Copy that, Sergeant.
Extraction team reports they're encountering heavy weather but are still en route.
Estimated arrival at primary pickup zone in 23 minutes. 23 minutes might as well have been 23 hours given their current circumstances.
Rodriguez needed medical attention that was far beyond their field capabilities, and their ammunition supplies were running low after the extended firefight at the compound.
Every factor seemed to be working against their survival. As they moved through the ravine, Wilson suddenly held up his hand, signaling for silence.
In the distance, barely audible over the storm, they could hear voices speaking in a language that none of them recognized. The sounds were coming from ahead of them, directly in their planned route toward the extraction point.
We've got more problems, Thompson whispered.
Sounds like we've got additional hostiles between us and pickup. Jenkins carefully peered around the rocky wall that concealed their position. Through the rain and darkness, he could see figures moving with military precision toward their location. These weren't the disorganized fighters from the compound. These people moved like professional soldiers, with equipment and tactics that suggested advanced training. Sergeant, we're caught between multiple forces, and the captain's running out of time. We need a miracle or we're all going home in boxes. Thompson's mind worked frantically through their limited options. They could try to fight their way through the professional soldiers ahead, but that would expose Rodriguez to additional danger and might not succeed against better-equipped opponents. They could attempt to find an alternate route, but that would add precious time that their captain didn't have. As if summoned by their desperate prayers, a new sound cut through the storm. A single rifle shot, fired from an elevated position, struck one of the advancing soldiers with devastating accuracy. The remaining fighters immediately took cover, their advance halted by the unexpected attack from an unknown position. "What the hell?" Martinez whispered, watching through his scope as confusion spread among their pursuers. Another shot followed seconds later, dropping a second soldier with the same surgical precision that had wounded Rodriguez. But, this time, the shots weren't aimed at the SEALs. Someone was engaging the forces that threatened them, providing covering fire from a concealed position that none of them could identify. Thompson realized that their mysterious sniper had revealed themselves as something unexpected. Not an enemy hunting them through the mountains, but a guardian angel with exceptional marksmanship skills and the tactical knowledge to turn the tide of their desperate situation. Through the storm and chaos, a new chapter in their survival story was about to begin, one that would challenge everything they thought they knew about friends and enemies in these unforgiving mountains. The storm reached its peak fury as the mysterious sniper continued providing covering fire for the trapped SEALs. Each shot demonstrated impossible accuracy through conditions that should have made long-range shooting nearly impossible. Thompson watched in amazement as hostile fighters dropped one by one, eliminated by someone who remained completely invisible despite his team's advanced surveillance equipment. "Whoever's helping us knows exactly what they're doing," Williams whispered, adjusting Rodriguez's position to keep him stable. The captain's breathing had become shallow and irregular, each breath a struggle that reminded them of their desperate race against time. "Those shots are coming from at least 800 meters away, through rain and wind that would challenge any shooter I've ever known." Jenkins studied the pattern of shots through his scope, trying to determine their guardian angel's position. The angles suggested multiple firing positions, which meant their benefactor was moving between shots with remarkable speed and stealth. This person isn't just skilled. They're operating at a level that borders on legendary. As the hostile forces retreated under the devastating sniper fire, Thompson saw their opportunity. "We move now, while they're disorganized. Williams, Martinez, take point with the captain. Everyone else maintains security. Our shooter has given us a window, but it won't stay open forever." They emerged from the ravine and began their final push toward the extraction point. The sniper continued providing overwatch, engaging any threats that appeared while remaining completely hidden from both enemies and allies. Thompson had never experienced anything like it in 15 years of combat operations across multiple theaters of war. Rodriguez stirred slightly as they carried him across a particularly rough section of terrain. His eyes opened for a moment, unfocused but aware, and he tried to speak. Martinez leaned close to hear his captain's words over the howling wind. "The mission. Did we complete the mission?" "Yes, sir. Objective secured, intelligence gathered, hostages safe. Just focus on staying with us, Captain." Rodriguez managed a weak smile before losing consciousness again. Even critically wounded and fighting for his life, his first concern remained for his team and their mission. It was exactly the kind of leadership that had earned him the unwavering loyalty of every man under his command. The extraction point came into view as lightning illuminated the landscape in stark, dramatic flashes. Thompson could see the landing zone clearly marked, but no sign of their helicopter. Williams frantically worked his radio, trying to establish contact with their ride home through the electromagnetic interference created by the massive storm system. "Extraction team reports they're holding in a safe area until the weather clears enough for safe landing. Estimated delay 45 minutes to an hour." Thompson felt his heart sink. Rodriguez didn't have 45 minutes, let alone an hour. They needed immediate medical evacuation or they would lose their captain to wounds that should have been survivable with prompt treatment. The storm that had provided concealment from their enemies was now threatening to kill their leader through delay. As if reading his thoughts, the mysterious sniper's rifle spoke again. This time, the shot wasn't aimed at enemy fighters. A flare burst in the sky above them, burning with brilliant red light that cut through the storm like a beacon. Moments later, a second flare followed, then a third, creating a clear signal that could be seen for kilometers in every direction. Somebody's calling for immediate extraction, Martinez observed, watching the flares burn against the dark sky. Those aren't standard military signals, but the message is pretty clear.
Williams worked his radio with renewed urgency, broadcasting on emergency frequencies while the flares continued to illuminate their position.
Within minutes, he received a response that brought hope to their desperate situation.
Unknown aircraft responding to emergency signal.
Military helicopter inbound to your position, ETA 12 minutes. Identify yourselves and state the nature of your emergency. Thompson grabbed the radio. This is SEAL Team Alpha with one critical casualty requiring immediate medical evacuation.
We are U.S. military personnel on authorized operation. Repeat, U.S. military with one urgent medical emergency.
Copy that, SEAL Team Alpha.
Medical helicopter inbound, equipped for trauma treatment.
Clear the landing zone and prepare for immediate departure. The team moved quickly to secure the landing area while their Guardian sniper continued providing overwatch from the darkness. Thompson realized that whoever was helping them possessed not only exceptional shooting skills but also tactical knowledge of military procedures and access to emergency communications that suggested professional military experience. As they waited for the helicopter, Wilson spotted movement in the rocks above their position. For a moment, he caught a glimpse of a figure silhouetted against the lightning-filled sky. The person appeared smaller than he had expected, moving with fluid grace across terrain that would challenge the most experienced mountain fighters. "Did you see that?" he whispered to Jenkins, pointing toward the rocky outcropping where the figure had appeared.
"See what? I've been watching that area for 10 minutes and haven't seen anything."
Before Wilson could respond, the distinctive sound of helicopter rotors cut through the storm. Their ride home appeared through the rain and darkness like salvation itself, descending toward the landing zone with navigation lights blazing through the night. The medical crew aboard was already preparing equipment for emergency treatment of Rodriguez's wounds. The helicopter touched down with practiced precision, and the SEALs quickly loaded their unconscious captain aboard. The medical team immediately began advanced life support procedures while the aircraft prepared for immediate departure. Thompson paused for a moment, looking back toward the mountains where their mysterious guardian remained hidden. "Williams, try to establish radio contact with our sniper. We need to offer extraction for whoever helped us." Williams broadcast on multiple frequencies, calling for their unknown ally to identify themselves and accept transportation to safety. The only response was silence that stretched across the mountains like a question mark in the storm. Whoever had saved their lives preferred to remain anonymous and alone in the hostile wilderness. As the helicopter lifted off, carrying Rodriguez toward emergency surgery and his team toward safety, Thompson watched the mountainside disappear into darkness below them. Their guardian angel had vanished as mysteriously as they had appeared, leaving only questions and gratitude in their wake.
"Medical team reports the captain is stabilizing," the crew chief announced over the aircraft's communication system.
"His vital signs are improving, and they expect him to make a full recovery with proper treatment." The news brought cheers from the exhausted SEALs, but Thompson continued staring out at the storm-lashed mountains below. Somewhere in that wilderness, an exceptional individual had risked everything to save strangers, asking for nothing in return except the satisfaction of knowing that good men would return home to their families.
Rodriguez opened his eyes as they approached the medical facility, his consciousness returning as the emergency treatment took effect.
The first words he spoke were characteristic of the leader he had always been.
"Did everyone make it home?"
"Yes, sir," Thompson replied, gripping his captain's hand. "Everyone's going home, thanks to someone who refused to let us fail." As the helicopter landed at the base medical facility, none of them realized that their encounter with the mysterious sniper was far from over. In the mountains behind them, plans were already forming for revelations that would change everything they thought they knew about guardian angels and legendary warriors who emerged from storms to save the worthy. 3 weeks later, Captain Marcus Rodriguez sat in his hospital bed at Walter Reed Medical Center, his chest wrapped in bandages but his eyes bright with returning strength. The bullet wound had healed remarkably well, thanks to the quick action of his team and the mysterious guardian who had ensured their successful extraction. Physical therapy would continue for several more weeks, but doctors assured him he would return to full duty within months.
Thompson entered the room carrying a manila folder that bore classified markings. His expression mixed satisfaction with deep curiosity as he approached his recovering captain's bedside.
"Sir, we finally have some answers about our mountain angel. The information is classified, but you need to hear this story."
Rodriguez adjusted his position, wincing slightly from the movement. "I've been wondering about that sniper for 3 weeks straight.
800-meter shots through a storm, tactical knowledge of our procedures, access to emergency flares and communications.
That's not amateur hour shooting."
Thompson opened the folder and pulled out several photographs and documents. Her name is Staff Sergeant Elena Vasquez, and she's been off the grid for 8 months.
Army Special Forces, trained as a designated marksman with the 75th Ranger Regiment.
According to these files, she holds the unofficial record for longest confirmed kill shot in Afghanistan theater.
She? Rodriguez raised an eyebrow, though his surprise quickly gave way to respect.
He had worked with exceptional female warriors throughout his career and knew that skill recognized no gender boundaries.
What was she doing alone in those mountains?
That's where the story gets complicated, sir. 8 months ago, her entire unit was wiped out in an ambush. She was the sole survivor, badly wounded, and officially listed as missing in action, presumed dead. Intelligence believed she had been captured or killed, but she was actually conducting a one-woman war against terrorist networks throughout the region.
Thompson laid out aerial photographs showing terrain that looked familiar to Rodriguez's trained eye.
She's been living off the land, targeting high-value terrorist operatives with precision strikes, and gathering intelligence that she's been transmitting to various allied forces through stolen enemy equipment. In 8 months, she's eliminated 17 confirmed terrorist leaders and disrupted dozens of planned attacks.
Rodriguez studied the photographs with growing amazement.
The idea of a single operator conducting such an extended campaign in hostile territory seemed almost impossible, yet the evidence was undeniable.
How did she survive alone for 8 months in those conditions?
According to the intelligence analysis, she's been using guerrilla tactics that are straight out of survival warfare textbooks. Moving constantly, never staying in one position for more than a day, living off captured enemy supplies and whatever she could hunt or forage. She's basically become a ghost that terrorist groups have started calling the Storm Demon.
The name sent chills down Rodriguez's spine as he remembered the conditions during their rescue.
Elena Vasquez had literally emerged from the storm like a supernatural force, appearing exactly when they needed salvation most desperately. Her timing had been so perfect that it seemed planned rather than coincidental.
Is that why she was in our area of operations? Following the same intelligence leads we were?
Thompson nodded, pulling out a detailed map marked with various locations and dates.
She's been tracking the same terrorist network for months.
The compound we hit was one of several targets on her list, but she was conducting long-range reconnaissance when our mission began. When she saw we were walking into a larger force than intelligence indicated, she made the decision to provide overwatch. Rodriguez traced the marked positions on the map, understanding the tactical situation more clearly.
Elena had been positioned perfectly to observe their approach and recognize the danger they faced.
Her decision to intervene had required splitting her attention between protecting them and maintaining her own concealment from multiple enemy forces.
The shot that wounded me, that was meant to be fatal, wasn't it? According to ballistic analysis, yes sir.
The enemy sniper was aiming for a kill shot, but Elena's bullet hit his weapon a fraction of a second before he fired.
Her shot deflected his aim enough to turn a fatal wound into a survivable injury.
She literally saved your life by shooting another sniper's rifle out of his hands from over a kilometer away, in storm conditions. The technical impossibility of such a shot left Rodriguez speechless for several moments. Even with perfect conditions and unlimited time to aim, most snipers would consider such a shot beyond the realm of possibility. Elena had executed it instantly, under battlefield stress, through rain and wind that would challenge Olympic marksmen.
Where is she now? Rodriguez asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. That's the question everyone's asking, sir. After ensuring our extraction was successful, she vanished again.
No radio contact, no supply requests, no intelligence reports. She's back to being a ghost in the mountains, continuing her private war against the people who killed her team. Thompson closed the folder but continued speaking, his voice carrying deep respect for the warrior they were discussing. Command has authorized a search and rescue operation to bring her home, but, frankly, if she doesn't want to be found, our chances are minimal. She knows those mountains better than anyone, and she's proven she can survive indefinitely in conditions that would kill most trained soldiers.
Rodriguez understood the implications perfectly. Elena Vasquez had become something beyond a traditional soldier.
8 months of survival warfare had transformed her into a force of nature, a legendary figure who appeared from storms to save the worthy and punish the wicked. Finding someone with those skills who preferred to remain hidden would be nearly impossible. "Sir, there's one more thing," Thompson said, producing a small envelope from the folder. "This was found at our extraction site, weighted down with stones so it wouldn't blow away in the storm." Rodriguez opened the envelope with careful hands, finding a single sheet of paper with neat handwriting that somehow remained perfectly legible despite having been exposed to mountain weather. The message was brief but carried enormous emotional weight. "To the SEALs of Alpha Team, your courage and brotherhood honor all who serve. Your captain fell protecting others, as true leaders do. He will recover because warriors like you never leave brothers behind. The mountains remember brave deeds, and some debts can only be repaid with guardian service. Stay safe, stay strong, and remember that you are never truly alone in hostile territory. A fellow warrior watches from the storm." The letter was signed simply with the initials EV and a small drawing of mountains beneath storm clouds. Rodriguez read the message twice, feeling emotions that were difficult to express. This woman had risked everything to save strangers, asking for nothing in return except the knowledge that good men would return home to their families. Her words carried the weight of someone who understood loss, sacrifice, and the unbreakable bonds that existed between warriors who faced death together. "Thompson, make sure this gets copied and distributed to every man on our team. They need to know who saved us and why." "Already done, sir." "Every man has a copy, and they've all requested to volunteer for the search operation when you're cleared for duty." Rodriguez smiled despite the lingering pain from his wounds. His team's loyalty and determination to help their guardian angel represented everything noble about military service. Elena Vasquez had saved them, and they would move heaven and earth to return the favor if given the opportunity. As Thompson prepared to leave, Rodriguez asked one final question. "Do you think we'll see her again?" Thompson paused at the door, considering the question carefully. "Sir, I think Elena Vasquez appears when she's needed most, by people who deserve her help. If we're ever in that kind of trouble again, I believe she'll be there. Some warriors are called to serve in ways that go beyond normal duty, and I think she's found her calling in those mountains." After Thompson left, Rodriguez lay back against his pillows, staring out the window at peaceful American skies. Somewhere in the storm-lashed mountains of Afghanistan, a legendary warrior continued her solitary war against evil, emerging from tempests to protect the worthy and vanishing like morning mist when her work was done. The fabled female sniper had become more than human. She had become hope itself, proof that guardian angels sometimes carried rifles and appeared through storms to ensure that heroes made it home to the people who loved them.